I never imagined I'd reach a point in my life where I'd have to pretend just to know the truth about my own children. But that's exactly what happened. My name is Eleanor. I'm 72 years old, and for most of my life, I believed my son Daniel and my daughter-in-law Mia loved me. Maybe not the warmest, maybe not the most affectionate, but at least respectful. At least grateful. I raised Daniel alone after his father passed. I worked 2 jobs, skipped meals, sold my jewelry, everything so he could have the life he deserved. And now I was starting to wonder if any of that had mattered. It all began the morning I told them I was going away. I stood in their kitchen doorway with my small suitcase. Daniel, Mia, I'll be taking a week-long trip to visit my old friend in the countryside. Mia looked up from her phone and smiled too quickly. Oh, yes, of course. That's wonderful, Mom. Daniel nodded, but his eyes did something strange. They flickered. Almost relieved. That was the first clue. Because in reality, I had no trip planned. No friend waiting for me. No countryside visit. I only had a suspicion. A terrible, heavy suspicion. Over the last month, I'd heard snippets of conversations. Whispers behind doors. A document left open on the kitchen table. The words long-term facility, scribbled in Mia's handwriting. Daniel saying, "She won't resist if she thinks it's for her safety." It felt like a knife in my chest. I may be older. I may be slower. But I'm not helpless. I'm not a burden. At least, I didn't think I was. So I created a plan. I pretended to travel. But instead of leaving town, I hid in the small, abandoned storage room above the garage. A place they never checked. A place I used to store old photos and winter blankets. From there, I could hear everything. And what I heard that first night shattered me. Mia entered the living room and sighed loudly. Finally. I thought she'd never leave. Daniel laughed softly. Well, at least now we can talk freely. My heart slammed against my ribs. What were they going to talk about? What was so urgent they had to wait until I was gone? I pressed my ear against the floorboards. Every sound felt like a drop of ice down my spine. Mia spoke first. Did the nursing home send the final paperwork? Nursing home. There it was. The word I feared more than anything. Daniel exhaled. They did. They have a room for her. Private. Clean. She'll be comfortable. Comfortable. As if I were a fragile package. Not a mother. Mia scoffed. She's lived with us long enough, Daniel. I'm sorry, but I can't keep tiptoeing around her. And we need her room for the baby. Baby? My eyes widened. Were they expecting? No, they would have told me. Wouldn't they? I covered my mouth to keep from crying out. The betrayal felt like a slap. Daniel spoke more quietly. I know it feels harsh, but we can't let her stay here when the baby comes. Mom needs supervision. Supervision? As if I were a danger. Or out of my mind. I shook where I sat. My knees hurt. My chest hurt more. Then Mia delivered the final blow. We'll tell her it's temporary. Once she's settled, we can ease her into it. She'll forget eventually. Forget? Forget? Do they think I'm stupid? Do they think I've lost my mind? I held my breath as footsteps grew louder. Mia walked directly below me. I could almost sense her smirk. Honestly, she said, thank goodness she's traveling. We can prepare everything while she's gone. The timing is perfect. Perfect. So my absence, my fake trip, had given them the comfort to plan my exile. The next morning, I stayed hidden as they moved about the house. I heard the soft murmur of coffee being poured, the jingle of car keys, the front door slamming. As soon as they left, I crept downstairs. My hands shook as I looked around the living room, the same room where I had read bedtime stories to Daniel, where I had cried when he graduated, where we had shared Sunday dinners. Now it didn't feel like home. It felt like a place I was no longer wanted. I moved toward the small desk in the corner. Papers were scattered. Bills. Insurance forms. A checklist labeled Nursing Home Transition Plan. It had every detail listed. Heavy checkmark pack mom's clothes. Heavy checkmark call moving service. Heavy checkmark transfer medical files. Heavy checkmark cancel her phone line. Heavy checkmark empty her room. Empty my room. As if I were already gone. My eyes blurred with tears. That's when I saw something that made my breath stop. A printed contract with the nursing home. Monthly fee. $6,800. Responsible party. Daniel and Mia Winters. But at the bottom, a handwritten note from Mia. Once we get control of her finances, we can use her funds to cover this. Control of my finances. So this wasn't concern. This wasn't care. This was planning. Strategic. Calculated. A decision they had made together. But the worst part wasn't the nursing home. It was what they planned to do before sending me there. As I scanned another folded page, my hands trembled. It was a message Mia had typed but never sent. I'm telling you, she's too old to live with us. Once she's out, we can finally redo her room into a nursery. I'm not sacrificing my baby's space for an old woman. Old woman. Old woman. Not mom. Not family. Not someone who raised her husband. Just an inconvenience. I sat on the couch, clutching the paper, and whispered to myself, they don't love me. Not anymore. But even as grief consumed me, something stronger rose beneath it. Anger. Resolve. A kind of strength only mothers know. If they wanted to send me away, if they wanted to take my freedom, then they would learn something they had forgotten. I may be old, but I am not powerless. I stood, wiped my tears, and made a decision that would change everything. I hardly slept that night. I stayed hidden in the dusty storage room again, my back pressed against the cold wall, the papers crumpled in my hands. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the same words repeating over and over. Once we get control of her finances, her room will be the nursery. She'll forget eventually. Forget? They really thought age made me blind. That love made me weak. That motherhood made me silent. They forgot something important. A mother remembers everything, especially betrayal. But what I found the next morning made everything much worse. Daniel and Mia left early, their footsteps rushing, the doors slamming behind them like they were excited to get away. The moment the house quieted, I came down again. I needed answers. I needed the whole truth. And I needed a plan. But first, I needed to see something. Something I'd been avoiding for months. My own room. I walked slowly down the hallway, hands grazing the wall for balance. My room had always been small, but it was mine. The only place in the house that still felt safe. At least it used to. When I opened the door, my heart cracked. My clothes were already packed in boxes. My framed photos were stacked on the floor. My medicine organizer was empty. Half my belongings were gone. Gone. They had started preparing before I even left on my trip. A lump formed in my throat. They were ready to send me away at any moment. I stepped inside, picking up one of the boxes. My wedding picture sat on top. the only photo I had left of my late husband George. His gentle smile stared back at me. "I wish you were here," I whispered. "You'd know what to do." I closed my eyes, breathing slowly. I had to stay strong. For myself. As I lifted another box, something slid out. A piece of paper. A printed email. I unfolded it with trembling hands. Subject: regarding Eleanor. From Mia. "Yes, we're ready to move her as soon as she returns. Daniel doesn't want to upset her, so we'll tell her it's a temporary medical observation. Once she's settled, the doctor can sign the mental evaluation form. After that, it'll be legally easier." Mental evaluation form. Legally easier. They weren't just planning to send me away. They wanted to prove I was incompetent. My knees buckled and I sat on the bed. "Why, Daniel?" I whispered. "Why would you do this to your own mother?" Tears burned my eyes. But suddenly, I heard something else. A sound. A click. I froze. Then I heard footsteps. Someone was in the house. Whoever walked inside. They weren't supposed to be there. I quickly wiped my tears and hid behind the bedroom door. My heart pounded so loudly I feared they could hear it. The footsteps were soft, careful. Not like Daniel's heavy boots. Not like Mia's loud heels. This was someone else. A stranger. They were walking toward my room. I held my breath. Then the doorknob turned. Slowly. I braced myself. The door opened, and a young man stepped inside. Maybe mid-20s, wearing a dark jacket, a cap pulled low. He didn't see me at first. He was too busy opening drawers, checking boxes, taking pictures of the room with his phone. Pictures? Why? What for? Then he muttered under his breath. "Yep. She's almost ready to be moved." Who was he talking about? Me? Of course me. He snapped another picture. "The nursing home will want all this." My blood ran cold. He worked for them. For the facility. For the place they wanted to send me. And he was here. To prepare. I couldn't let him see me. Not yet. Not until I understood everything. I waited until he moved deeper into the house, then quietly slipped out, stepping silently as a shadow. As I hid behind the living room wall, I heard him talking on the phone. "Yeah, I'm at the Winters house. The old lady isn't here, perfect timing. Yes, they said she's traveling. Yep, we'll transport her things Thursday." Transport her things. Thursday. That was 3 days away. 3 days until they took me. Everything inside me shook. Fear, anger, heartbreak. But underneath it all, something sharper formed. Resolve. If they wanted to take me quietly, I wasn't going quietly. I turned and crept outside while he searched the kitchen. I hid behind the shed until he left. As soon as he drove away, I went back inside. But something on the porch steps stopped me in my tracks. A letter. It had my name on it. My hand shook as I opened it. It was from my doctor. "Eleanor, please return my call. Your son asked me to sign medical consent forms on your behalf. Forms I cannot sign without speaking to you. Forms. Consent. Behind my back." That was it. That was enough betrayal for one lifetime. That was the exact moment I decided I would fight back. I walked back inside the house and sat at the dining table, the same table where I'd shared countless meals with Daniel. I looked around the quiet house. The walls felt cold now. The air felt heavy. Nothing felt like mine anymore. But that didn't matter. They thought I was old, weak, easy to manipulate. What they didn't know was that I still had everything they underestimated. My mind. my memory, my intuition, my strength. Most importantly, I had the truth, and I was about to use it. I reached for the phone, dialed a number I never thought I'd need. The voice on the other end said, "Hello." My voice shook, but my determination didn't. "I need your help," I said. "It's about my son and my daughter-in-law. They're planning something. Something terrible." "What are they planning?" the voice asked. I swallowed hard. "They want to put me in a nursing home I don't belong in, and take everything I have." There was silence. Then, "Eleanor, I'll be there in 20 minutes. I hung up. I didn't know what would come next. I didn't know how deep the betrayal went. I didn't know how much danger I was really in. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going down without a fight. The moment I hung up the phone, everything around me felt surreal. The ticking clock on the wall, the soft hum of the refrigerator, the distant sound of cars outside. All the things that used to feel normal now felt like part of someone else's life. Because I suddenly understood something. I wasn't safe in my own home anymore. Not with my son. Not with my daughter-in-law. Not with strangers walking in to prepare my room for removal. The person I'd called was the only one I trusted. Only one person in the world who would come without questions. My old neighbor and closest friend, Margaret. Strong. Loyal. Sharp as a knife even at 70. She was the woman I used to walk with every morning. Until Daniel and Mia moved me into their home, 20 minutes away from her. Maybe that was intentional. Maybe I had been isolated and I didn't even see it. But now I needed her. 20 minutes felt like 20 hours. I checked the window every few seconds. When I finally saw her familiar dusty blue sedan pull up, I almost collapsed with relief. She stepped out with her floral shawl wrapped tightly around her shoulders, and her gray curls bouncing as she hurried toward me. The moment I opened the door, her eyes widened. "Eleanor, you look pale. What's going on?" Her voice was soft but full of fear. I held up the stack of papers, the contract, the notes, the email, the doctor's letter. "Margaret, they're planning to put me in a nursing home." She stared at me for a long moment. Then her jaw tightened. "Who?" "Daniel." Her voice had a sharpness I hadn't heard in years. "And Mia," I whispered. "All behind my back." She stepped inside and closed the door, locking it. "Okay," she said firmly. "Start from the beginning." I told her everything. The whispers. The fake trip. The man who came for photos. The doctor's letter. The finished boxes in my room. Her hands trembled halfway through. When I finished, she looked like her heart had been broken and set on fire at the same time. "Oh, Eleanor," she whispered. "They're not just planning to send you away. They're planning to take control of everything you own." I nodded slowly. "But why, Margaret? Why would they do this?" She looked at me for a long moment, then reached into her bag and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. "This is why." She slid it across the table. I didn't want to open it. Something inside me already sensed the truth. But I did. Slowly. When I read the first line, my stomach twisted. Notice of overdue mortgage. Property at 145 Willow Lane. My son's house. Daniel's house. The address I was sitting in right now. I looked up confused. "I don't understand." Margaret's eyes were full of sadness. "Eleanor, they're in debt. A lot of debt." My heart pounded. "How much?" She hesitated. That alone scared me. Then she whispered, "Almost $300,000. I covered my mouth. 300,000? That was more money than I had ever seen in my life. How? I choked out. Bad investments, she said. Daniel told Robert last month. And Mia. Apparently she was hiding her own credit card debt from him. Together they're drowning. I stared at the papers in my hand. And they want me to pay for it. Margaret nodded slowly. They want your savings, your pension, and your life insurance payout. And once you're in a nursing home, they'll have the legal power to do anything with it. The room spun. All the pieces fell into place. The sudden kindness, the controlling tone, the suggestion I deserved rest, the way Mia pushed me to sign things without reading them. They were trapping me. But Margaret wasn't finished. She leaned closer. And Eleanor, there's something else. My chest tightened. What? She took a deep breath. Your daughter-in-law. Mia, she's pregnant. My eyes widened. So they are expecting? Margaret shook her head slowly. Yes, but Eleanor, it's not Daniel's baby. The world stopped. Everything froze. I felt my hands tighten around the edge of the table. What did you just say? It's not his, she repeated softly. She's been seeing someone else. A coworker. I don't know if Daniel knows yet, but she told a mutual friend that she's planning to secure the future before the truth comes out. I felt like all the air was sucked out of my lungs. My son, my sweet boy, being betrayed by the woman he loved. My heart ached. Not just for myself, but for him. But then a deeper realization hit me. If Mia wasn't loyal to Daniel, she would never be loyal to me. This wasn't about care. It wasn't about worry. It wasn't even about space for a baby. It was about money, power, security, her future. And I was the easiest piece to remove. I sat in silence for what felt like forever. Margaret reached out and held my hand. Eleanor, you can't stay here. I shook my head. No, I can't. Not one more minute. But where would I go? Where could I hide? Where could I be safe? As if reading my thoughts, Margaret said, You'll stay with me. I looked up sharply. No, I can't. Yes, she said firmly. You can. And you will. I won't let them take you. I won't let them hurt you. My eyes filled with tears. But then she added something that sent a chill down my spine. And there's something else you need to know. I didn't want to scare you earlier, but Daniel and Mia aren't planning to wait until your trip ends. I froze. What do you mean? She squeezed my hand. I heard from Robert. They're coming back early today. To pack the rest of your things. To prepare the house. Today. They were coming today. That meant they would walk inside, find me gone, and then realize I never left. Realize I knew. A shiver crawled down my spine. Margaret, we need to leave right now. She stood instantly. Yes, right now. She helped me gather the few things I trusted, my medicine, my documents, my wedding photo, and we walked to the door. But the moment she opened it, she froze. I looked past her shoulder and saw Daniel's car turning into the driveway. No, they were early. Too early. My heart began to race. Margaret whispered urgently, Eleanor, we need to go out the back. Now. We rushed toward the back door. But then I heard footsteps outside. Voices. Daniel's voice. Mia's voice. They were already at the side of the house. There was no way out. The moment the back door handle rattled, my entire body turned to ice. Margaret stiffened beside me, her hand hovering near mine, frozen mid-motion. We heard Daniel's voice, low, irritated, too close. Mia, check the back. Mom might have forgotten something. Forgotten something? If only he knew. My heart pounded so loudly I wondered if he could hear it through the door. I held my breath. Margaret's hand tightened around my wrist. The handle twisted again. This time harder. I felt a cold wave of panic wash over me. The kind that makes your knees weaken and your throat go dry. "Eleanor," Margaret whispered, her breath trembling. "We need to move. Now." There was only one choice. We darted quietly toward the laundry room, a tiny space with an old dryer, a shelf of cleaning supplies, and a back window just big enough for a person to squeeze through. A person much younger and thinner than either of us. But fear makes people capable of impossible things. I grabbed the window frame and shoved it upward. It screeched loudly. I winced. Silence followed. Then Daniel's footsteps immediately grew faster. They heard it. Margaret whispered desperately, "Eleanor, go, go." I pushed first, my legs trembling as I climbed out, landing awkwardly on the soft dirt outside. My knees screamed with pain and I nearly collapsed. But I didn't have time, because I heard it. "Mom! Mom!" His voice wasn't soft. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't the voice of a son calling out in worry. It was sharp, searching, cold. "Eleanor," Margaret whispered from the window. "Take my hand." I reached up and helped her squeeze through. She slipped, nearly falling, but I grabbed her arm just in time. We didn't stop to catch our breath. We ran. As fast as two terrified old women could run. Through the backyard. Past the garage. Across the tall shrubs lining the neighbor's yard. Every step felt like the ground might swallow me whole. Every heartbeat echoed with fear. The voice behind us grew louder. "Mom? Mom, are you back? Where are you?" Then Mia's sharper tone. "She's here. I told you she came home early." She must have heard something. Heard something. They knew. They knew I knew. And that meant they would do anything to get me under control before I could tell anyone. What they said next made Margaret grab my arm and drag me faster. Their voices floated through the yard. "Daniel, if she saw the papers, if she knows." "She can't know. She can't. Do you understand? If she talks to anyone." "I know. I know," Mia snapped. "She won't get far. She's old, she can't move quickly. We'll find her." My breath hitched. They weren't looking for me out of worry. They were hunting me. Like prey. Margaret grabbed my arm tighter. "We need to get to my car," she whispered urgently. "Once we're off this street, they'll never catch us." We reached the side of her driveway, hidden by thick hedges, just as Daniel and Mia burst out the front door. I ducked instinctively. Mia's voice rose sharply. "She didn't take her suitcase, she's close. Look around the back." Daniel groaned, frustrated. "We don't have time for this, Mia. If she calls someone." His voice lowered, but I heard it. I heard every word. "We'll lose everything. Everything." That was the truth behind all of this. Not love. Not concern. Not family. Money. I felt a sting deep in my chest, betrayal layered on betrayal, but Margaret's whisper snapped me back to reality. "Come on, Eleanor. Quick." She unlocked her old sedan with a quiet click, and we slid inside. My breath was shaking. Her hands trembled as she turned the key. The engine sputtered. Once. Twice. "Oh no," Margaret whispered. "Not now. Not now, God, please." Then the engine roared to life. "Go," I whispered. "Please, Margaret, go." She reversed slowly, keeping the car low and quiet behind the shrubs. And for a brief moment, I thought we might escape unnoticed. But just as she pulled onto the street, Daniel stepped out from behind the mailbox. He saw us. His eyes widened. "Mom!" Margaret floored the gas. The car jerked forward, tires screeching. Daniel shouted behind us, running a few steps onto the street. "Mom! Come back! You don't understand." But I did understand. For the first time, I understood everything. I didn't look back. Margaret drove fast. Faster than I'd ever seen her drive. Weaving through the neighborhood until we reached the main road. Only then did she slow down, her hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. I sagged into the seat, tears finally breaking free. "Margaret, I can't believe this. My own son." She placed a gentle hand on mine. "Eleanor, listen to me. This isn't your fault. Children can be cruel when desperation blinds them." I stared out the window, watching houses blur past. "I gave him my whole life," I whispered. "My whole life." "I know," she said softly. "And now we will protect what's left of it." But just as those words settled in the air, Margaret's phone buzzed loudly in the cup holder. We both flinched. She picked it up, her eyes narrowing. "It's Daniel." My heart dropped. "Don't answer," I whispered. She didn't. She stared at the screen until it stopped ringing. Silence filled the car. Then it buzzed again. This time it was a text message. From Mia. Margaret's eyes read it, and her whole face hardened. She handed me the phone. I expected anger, manipulation, lies. But what I read was worse. Much worse. "Where are you taking her? She needs help. If you keep her away from us, you're putting her at risk. She's not well. She's confused. You're making things harder. Bring her back. Now." I felt the blood drain from my face. They were going to paint me as unstable, as confused, as mentally unfit, all to justify what they planned to do. Margaret read my expression and nodded grimly. "This is exactly why we need to get ahead of them." Her voice grew firm. "Eleanor, we're not just running. We're preparing." I frowned. "Preparing for what?" She took a deep breath. "For a fight." I swallowed hard. "What kind of fight?" She looked straight at the road, her jaw set. "The kind where we gather evidence, get legal help, and expose every secret they're trying to hide." Then she said something that made my heart stop. "And it starts with the man your daughter-in-law has been seeing behind your son's back." My breath hitched. "What about him?" Margaret turned to me, her voice low and steady. "He knows things, Eleanor. Dangerous things. Things Mia never wanted anyone to find out." A chill ran through me. "What kind of things?" She glanced at me, her eyes full of both fear and determination. "The kind of things that, if they come out, could destroy everything Daniel and Mia are trying to do." But before we could reach him, someone else found us first. I closed my daughter-in-law's laptop slowly, my hands trembling. My name, my birthday, my medical records, a note that said, "Priority. Move her to Willow Creek Nursing Facility before end of month." And then the line that shattered me the most. "She thinks she's traveling. Keep her distracted." They weren't protecting me. They weren't worried. They weren't caring. They were planning to get rid of me, just like an old piece of furniture that took up space. Suddenly, the hairs on the back of my neck rose. I heard footsteps, slow, careful, coming down the hallway. I shut the laptop, slid it back exactly where it was, and stepped away like the floor was glass. "Mom!" It was my son's voice, But it wasn't soft. It wasn't loving. It wasn't worried. It was suspicious. The kind of voice someone uses when they catch you somewhere you shouldn't be. He stepped into the room, eyes scanning. "What are you doing in here?" he asked. I forced a smile. "Oh, darling. I was just looking for a sweater." He didn't believe me. I could see it. His eyes went straight to the laptop. My heart hammered so loud I was sure he could hear it. White medium star. He walked closer, and I thought, this is it. Broken heart. My son had never frightened me before. But in that moment, I felt like prey. He grabbed the laptop, opened it, clicked something, and then turned back to me. "You shouldn't touch my things," he said quietly. Quiet but icy. I swallowed, trying to stay calm. "I'm sorry," I whispered. I'll stay in my room." He nodded, but his expression didn't soften. "It's for the best, Mom." An alert appeared. I only saw 2 lines before it faded. "Paperwork ready. Just need her signature. Move her before she becomes suspicious." My knees almost gave out. They were rushing. They wanted me out. But why? Was it money? Convenience? My condo? My pension? Or something far, far darker? I went to my room, locked the door, and finally allowed myself to break. I cried silently into my pillow, terrified they would hear. Every memory replayed in my mind: the lunches I packed, the school fees I paid, the nights I stayed awake when he had fevers, the sacrifices, the dreams I gave up. Also, my son could have a better life. And now, he wanted to ship me off like a burden, something that made my tears stop. My sister, my late sister. Before she passed, she told me, "If anything ever goes wrong, check the safety deposit box." At the time I brushed it off, but now, felt like a lifeline, a rope in a storm, a whisper of hope. I wiped my face, stood up, and whispered to myself, if they want to get rid of me, they're going to have to fight. For the first time in months, I felt strength. Real strength. The kind grandmothers get when they have nothing left to lose, but everything to uncover. Tomorrow morning I would leave the house. I would go to the bank, and I would open the box my sister left for me. The box that might hold the truth. The truth my son and daughter-in-law were hiding so desperately. The truth they were willing to betray me for. But I didn't know that someone was already watching my every move, and they would do anything to stop me from opening that box. Flesh face fire. I barely slept that night. Every tiny sound in the house made me flinch. A door closing, footsteps in the hall, a whisper of movement. I kept imagining my son opening my door, finding me awake, realizing I knew something. But morning finally came, and with it a plan. I got dressed quietly, grabbed my small purse, and slipped my phone inside. At breakfast I acted normal. Too normal. "Morning," I said softly. My daughter-in-law barely looked up. My son just nodded. But the way their eyes followed me, it was like they were waiting for something, or testing me. My heart jumped. I tried to stay calm. "Oh, just for a walk. The weather is lovely." He narrowed his eyes slightly. "You sure you're feeling all right?" I smiled, the soft, harmless smile of a grandma. "I'm fine, dear. Just want some fresh air." He hesitated, then nodded. But his expression told me something else. He didn't trust me anymore. And he was watching. I left the house, but I didn't walk toward the park. The moment I turned the corner, I hurried toward the bus stop. My hands were shaking, my breath uneven. I kept checking over my shoulder. Was someone following me? No. It was probably just fear. Or so I thought. The bus arrived and I took a seat near the back, close to the window. Outside I saw a car pull up. A dark sedan. The same one that had been parked across the street last night. And inside it, a silhouette. Not my son. Not my daughter-in-law. Someone else. My pulse hammered. This wasn't paranoia. This was real. I tried to stay calm, telling myself it could be coincidence. But at each turn, each stop, the car stayed behind us. Exactly behind us. Never losing distance. Never overtaking. Just watching. Just following. By the time I reached the bank, the car was still there. I stepped out quietly, pretending not to notice. I walked toward the building, but my instincts screamed inside me. Hurry! Someone doesn't want you here. Inside the bank, a quiet, cold air washed over me. A young teller approached. Ma'am, how can I help you today? My voice trembled slightly. I need to open a safety deposit box. Box 47. It belongs to my late sister. She nodded kindly and led me to the vault. But before she opened the door, I looked behind me, through the glass wall of the bank entrance. And there he was, the man from the car, standing outside, watching me. He wasn't pretending anymore. He wanted me to see him. She unlocked the vault door. Inside was a long, quiet room of metal boxes. I found box 47. My fingers were trembling as I inserted the key. The lock clicked open. I held my breath, and inside was a thick envelope, with my name on it. Just my name. No explanation. But I didn't get to open it, because at that exact moment, the vault door slammed shut. Not softly. Hard. Like someone forced it. The teller hadn't touched it. No one else was supposed to be inside. My chest tightened. I wasn't imagining things anymore. Someone was here. Someone who didn't want me to see what my sister left behind. Slow. Heavy. Coming straight toward me. There was no escape. No windows. No second exit. Just me, the envelope, and whoever had followed me here. When he stepped out of the shadows, I realized he knew everything about my family, including the secret they were keeping from me. Face screaming in fear fire. The footsteps grew louder, slow, deliberate, like someone wanted me to hear them. I held the envelope tight against my chest. My breath was short and shallow. Then, a tall man stepped from behind the vault corner. He wasn't wearing a mask. He wasn't hiding. He looked right at me. A cold, calm smile on his face. Mrs. Reynolds, he said softly. I froze. He knew my name. My real name. Not the one on my mail. Not the one my daughter-in-law always spelled wrong. My official name. The one tied to my will. My bank accounts. My estate. My voice shook. Who are you? He took a step closer. You don't need to be afraid of me, he said quietly. But you do need to be afraid of the people living in your house. My knees nearly gave out. My heart stopped. Hired. For what? To threaten me? To scare me? To watch me? He continued calmly. They wanted updates on you. Where you go. What you do. If you wander. My fingers tightened around the envelope. Wander. He nodded. They're setting up a case. A case. I whispered. For guardianship, he said. Once they declare you mentally unfit, you'll lose everything. Your house. Your pension. Your rights. My stomach turned. No. 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 This couldn't be real. My own son? My boy who I raised alone after his father died? Planning to take control of my life? The man continued. And once they have guardianship. He paused, then said it plainly. They're placing you in a nursing home. My throat closed. I felt dizzy. I pressed a hand against the cold vault wall to steady myself. I wish I was, he said. But they paid me to follow you, to take photos, to make you look confused, lost, helpless. Tears stung my eyes. I had felt followed, watched, monitored, but to hear it confirmed, it broke something inside me. But why? I whispered. Why would they do this to me? He sighed. Your house is worth almost $1 million. And your savings aren't small either. I felt sick. Money. It always came down to money. My son and daughter-in-law weren't trying to take care of me. They were trying to take everything from me. I looked down at the envelope in my hands. What's in here? I asked. He hesitated, then said, I think it's what they don't want you to find. Your sister left instructions. And maybe something else. My hands trembled as I started to open the seal, but he suddenly grabbed my wrist. Not here. His voice was sharp now. This place has cameras. They'll know you opened it. A chill shot down my spine. Of course. The cameras. The teller. My daughter-in-law might even be tracking my card. He leaned closer. Come with me. I can get you somewhere safe. Somewhere they can't touch you. Safe. With a man who had been paid to stalk me? But his voice, his eye, he didn't look cruel. He looked guilty, conflicted, almost protective, as if he knew more than he was saying. A shiver went through me. What do you mean? I whispered. He didn't answer. Instead, he gently took my elbow and steered me out of the vault. The teller glanced up, confused, but he flashed a badge. Fake one, maybe. But she didn't question it. Outside, sunlight hit my face, and I saw it. A second car, parked across the street. Engine running. Driver watching me. Not the sedan from before. Another one. Another person. Another threat. My son had more than one person watching me. And that meant one thing. Whatever was inside this envelope, they wanted it hidden forever. As he pushed me into the car, he whispered, Don't look back. But I did. And what I saw froze my blood. Face screaming in fear fire. When the caretaker left the house, silence filled the room. My son and daughter-in-law stared at me like they were looking at a ghost. I stood up slowly, leaning on my cane. Sit, I said softly. Not angry. Just tired. Very tired. They sat. My son kept swallowing hard like his throat was dry. My daughter-in-law crossed her arms, but her hands were shaking. I reached into my travel bag and pulled out the stack of papers I had prepared for them. Inheritance documents, hospital reports, a letter from my late husband. I placed them on the table one by one without saying a word. My son's eyes widened. My daughter-in-law's face drained of color. Finally, I spoke. If you ever want to see what someone truly is, give them something to gain or something to lose. My son leaned forward, voice trembling. Mom, what is this? I stared at him. Everything I own. Every last piece of my life. But after today, after seeing your plans, I need to know something. He lowered his head. My daughter-in-law tried to interrupt. You misunderstood. I held up my hand. Don't lie. You were going to put me away and take everything. You called the nursing home already. She froze. Because I had the recording in my pocket. I placed my phone on the table. Pressed play. Her voice echoed through the room. Yes, she's old and confused. Just make sure she can't leave early. We need access to her accounts as soon as possible. My son closed his eyes like someone stabbed him. My daughter-in-law jumped up. That doesn't mean anything. It means everything. I whispered. Sometimes betrayal comes from the people you raised, not the strangers you fear. My son finally spoke. Soft. Broken. Mom, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know she said all that. He was crying. Actual tears. Not the fake ones he used on his wife's family when he wanted money. For a moment, for a small, painful moment, I saw the boy I raised. The child who held my hand on the first day of school. The teenager who hugged me after his father died. The man I thought he would grow up to be. I touched his cheek. I wanted to trust you. My daughter-in-law scoffed. What's the big deal? You're old. You can't live alone forever. We were trying to help you. Help me. I snapped. My voice shook the room. Help me? By lying behind my back? By trying to lock me away? By treating me like a burden? Dark silence. My son tried to defend her again, but I shook my head. No more lies. I already know everything. And then, I revealed the real bombshell. I took out the ticket stubs, restaurant receipts, hotel logs, everything. All the things I found after pretending to travel. Their little secret trips. Their weekly outings. Their spa days. Their expensive dinners. All paid for with my money. My son's face collapsed. My daughter-in-law went pale. Were you even planning to tell me? I whispered. She didn't answer. She couldn't. And that's when I realized. I wasn't confronting them. I was saying goodbye. I stood up and reached into my travel coat. And I placed the final envelope on the table. Said only one thing. The decision. My daughter-in-law lunged for it, but I pulled it back. You don't get to see it. My son whispered. Mom, what decision? I looked at them both. My hands trembling. My heart breaking. The decision that determines what happens to both of you now. Their eyes widened in fear. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. Because they still didn't know the biggest secret I had uncovered. Something that would change everything. Something neither of them ever expected. Something they should have never hidden from me. Now, it was finally time for the truth. My son stared at the envelope like it was a bomb. My daughter-in-law kept pacing back and forth, chewing her nails, whispering under her breath. I sat down slowly, my bones aching, my heart heavier than it had ever been. Maybe heavier than the day my husband died. Because that day, I lost my partner. But this day, I realized I might have lost my own child. I took a deep breath. Time to reveal what I found. Sometimes the truth cuts deeper than betrayal. Because it shows you who people really are. I pulled out a folded paper, one they never thought I'd see. It was printed with big letters across the top. Nursing facility intake form. Immediate transfer requested. My son recognized it instantly. His face twisted with shame. But that wasn't the part that hurt me the most. The hospital logo was at the top. Meaning, they had planned this before I even found out they were using my money. Before the argument. Before anything. My daughter-in-law tried to grab the paper. You weren't supposed to see that. I held it away from her. Why? Because it exposes every lie you told me? Because it shows what you planned behind my back. She looked furious. But beneath the anger, I saw fear. Real fear. My son sank into a chair. Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I cut him off. You didn't mean to? You signed it. He froze. I placed the last document on the table. His signature. Clear as day. His eyes filled with tears again. But I wasn't finished. Not even close. But that wasn't the real secret. The real secret was why they wanted me gone so fast. I reached into my bag once more and pulled out the ultrasound picture. My daughter-in-law gasped. My son jumped to his feet. Mom, where did you get that? I looked at both of them. So you're expecting? They both stared at the floor. Not happy. Not excited. Ashamed. My son finally spoke. We weren't ready to tell anyone. My daughter-in-law's voice cracked. We found out a month ago. And we panicked. I felt tears in my eyes too. A grandchild. A new life. Something beautiful. Then my daughter-in-law whispered something I'll never forget. We couldn't afford the baby. And since you live with us, everything was becoming too tight. We needed your room. Ah, there it was. The real reason. Not just the money. Not just the control. Not just convenience. They wanted to replace me. My son reached for my hand. Mom, we didn't want to hurt you. We were drowning. And we thought. You thought the solution was to get rid of me. Silence. A painful silence. I closed my eyes. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I didn't feel angry. Felt empty. Like everything inside me drained out. But when someone shows you their truth, you only get one choice. Accept it or walk away. I opened the envelope labeled The Decision. I hadn't planned to reveal it yet. But now they needed to hear it. I handed it to my son. His hand shook as he opened it. My daughter-in-law leaned over to read it. And the moment their eyes reached the words, both of them froze. My son looked like the ground disappeared under his feet. My daughter-in-law's face crumpled. Inside the envelope was a single simple sentence. I am moving out. Effective immediately. And below it, my new address. The contract for a senior community apartment. And the paper showing I had transferred control of my accounts to someone who wasn't them. My daughter-in-law shouted, What? Who did you give it to? I stood up holding my purse. My voice calm. Too calm. Someone who actually cares about me. Their eyes widened. But I didn't tell them who. Not yet. Because that was the final twist. The one that would shake their world. The one they deserved. So I walked toward the door, leaving them trembling behind me. And right as I reached the exit, someone unexpected stepped inside. Someone they never expected to see. Someone who changed everything. As I reached for the door handle, ready to leave my son and daughter-in-law behind, the door swung inward. And there she was. My sister. Not the wealthy, glamorous version the world knew, but the only family member who ever truly protected me. She stepped inside with a calm, controlled grace, the kind that made everyone else feel small without her saying a single word. My son's face went pale. My daughter-in-law actually stepped backward. They never expected to see her. When people think they've pushed you to your weakest point, they forget who stands behind you. My sister looked straight at them. Not angry. Not yelling. Just disappointed. And that was worse. Much worse. She walked toward me and gently touched my shoulder. Are you ready? I nodded. My son rushed forward, panic breaking through. Aunt Clara, please. This is all a misunderstanding. She held up one hand. He stopped instantly, because everyone respected her. Everyone feared her. And most importantly, everyone knew she never spoke unless she had something final to say. I read every document your mother brought to me, she said coldly, including the nursing home application. My daughter-in-law's chin trembled. My sister continued. And the bank transfers. My son swallowed hard. And the messages you two sent each other about her being a burden. My daughter-in-law collapsed onto the couch, covering her face. My son looked like he was about to faint. My sister turned to me. You're coming with me. Your room is ready. That moment, my heart broke and healed at the same time, because for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt wanted, not as a babysitter, not as a wallet, not as a nuisance. As family, we began walking out together. But before I stepped out, I turned back. My son's voice cracked. Mom, please don't go. I looked at him for a long, painful moment. I didn't leave you. You pushed me away. Tears slid down his face. But there are wounds apologies cannot heal, and betrayals that love cannot erase. My daughter-in-law whispered. We just didn't know what to do. I didn't respond. Some truths didn't require answers. Leaving isn't the hardest part. Accepting who people really are. That's the real heartbreak. I stepped outside with my sister. The cold evening air stung my cheeks, but it felt freeing, like the first breath after being underwater too long. We walked toward her car. She opened the door for me, but before I got inside, she said softly, "You did the right thing." I nodded, though tears blurred my vision. Then she handed me something small. A key. Your new place is right beside mine. I blinked, speechless. She smiled. You're not alone. Not anymore. I hugged her. A long, trembling hug I didn't know I needed. Behind us, in the doorway of the house, my son and daughter-in-law stood watching. Frozen. Silent. Realizing too late what they'd lost. We drove away. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I allowed myself to cry. Not because I was broken, but because I was finally free. A sad ending, but a powerful one. Because sometimes, walking away isn't weakness. It's survival. And sometimes, family isn't who you're born to. It's who stands beside you when the rest of the world turns its back.